You're live on Locked On Uconn.
You are Locked On Uconn, your daily podcast on the Uconn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everyone, we're live. Little special show, Locked On Uconn. Let's introduce our guests. It's our little four panel deal here. We got Kyle Bergstrom. So what's up, Kyle?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
No problem. We got Jared. Let me see if I can get your name right. Is it Kotler or Kotler? I'm
yeah,
not sure.
You got it. Thanks.
Got it right? I don't know if I can reveal his name, so I'm just going to say Little Red is with us in the bottom left corner. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good. Hey, just go around the horn. Like, how are we feeling? I don't care who starts. Why don't we go with you, Little Red? How you feeling right now?
I think everybody's very confident going into today. And I think it's easy to just kind of look at and say, we're rolling, number one team in the country, number one team in the bracket. Playing the winner at FAU Northwestern, did FAU deserve to get in? All these things kind of go into it. And just really the heart of the matter is UConn continuing to roll and Hurley continuing to find ways to keep these guys locked in. I think he's done a great job, and I think that was obvious during his halftime interview of the first week for the first bracket matchup. But good things are happening. Teams rolling at the right time. Just continuing that forward momentum against Northwestern.
My wife, who's a rabid UT football and kind of basketball fan, so she was happy last night, said she goes, "Aren't you guys up like 50 at halftime watching the halftime speech?"
That was something. So, I love seeing that.
Absolutely, man.
Really comes to the point where you have to start nitpicking. Find these little things. I mean, the last 3 minutes we didn't play like a championship caliber team. We were up 45 at half. Nuts.
Crazy.
It's very Geno, Nick Saban esque there, and that's what you want to see out of a coach. I like it.
Love that.
Absolutely, Kyle. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good heading into today. Always get a little anxious heading into tournament games. You never know when someone gets hot, and that happens to just be your off night. But I'm feeling confident about this team. They've been playing really well. I think it's a good matchup for them. And yeah, as Little Red said, let's just see this wagon and keep rolling. I'm excited.
Kyle, to you?
Yeah, I mean, just like they both just said, I mean, super excited to watch the game, confident about it. The only person that does scare me on that Northwestern team is that Boo Buie kid. I think he's a stud. I think he's a great player. So I think we just lock him down, and I think the rest of the game takes care of itself.
Did anyone else hear this name wrong when they were watching the Northwestern FAU game? So there's Brooks Barnhizer, and my media mind said, "Is that Tony Kornheiser's kid?" Because that's all I kept hearing is Brooks Kornheiser, not Barnhizer, because he had a good game too. You're right, Kyle. I think Boo Buie is their guy, but I also think you look at their three guards. Brooks Barnhizer averages 14.6 points per game, and he averages 7.5 rebounds a game. So, he's a pretty solid player. That's a decent average in the Big 12. And then Ryan, again, another name that threw me off because if anyone is a fan of Ozark, the name Langmore. So Ryan Langborg, I was like, dude, what is up with these names? That dude had a game. That guy had a great game against FAU, and he's a 41.5% 3-point shooter. So there are guys that can get hot on this team. They played Purdue tough during the regular season. So they're as Hurley said, it's going to be a war.
I think that really does stand out. Like we look at Northwestern, like, well, they played Purdue tough, but they also had a hard time with Minnesota. They lost to Nebraska. I had a hard time. I think they lost to Penn State. Maybe if they didn't lose to Penn State, it was a very close game. Penn State really lost 5
They lost to Chicago State.
You're
talking ugly losses.
The thing is, guys, is like this UConn team in particular is really the only team. Because even Houston has like a game where you're like, wow, they lost to. I mean, even Iowa State is a great team, but they lost by 30. So UConn is the only team, with the exception of the Creighton game, that doesn't have a bad loss and doesn't have a game where you're like, they lost by how much to whom? So it is kind of hard to compare them because it should be, as the spread is saying, about a 14, 15-point win or above. But it's March and things can happen.
It's also, I mean, Bowie, you're going to have to go against Castle. And Castle really isn't the focal point of our offense. So exhaust it all on the defensive side of the floor for Castle. And when you get tired of that, DR is coming for you, and he's going to grind you. He's honestly could be a little bit more physical, low-key than Castle for the full, full court D. He's going to lock you up full court. He'll nag you. Just watch the little things that he does off the ball. I mean, always hands-on, a lot of contact. Really good at just kind of wearing you down throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, not a spot on comparison here, but you look at what Castle did the other day in guarding Jalen Blackman, who put up 43 in the championship game for Stetson, and he basically held him in check. That, I mean, the entire first half when the game mattered, I think he was 0 for 4, didn't get a clean look whatsoever. And I'm not saying that Blackman's as good as Boo Buie, but if you're able to take a guy like Castle and put him on their best offensive player and really hold him in check, make things hard for him, I think that bodes well. And well, Red, as you mentioned, I mean,
in the locker
room.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jared.
I was just gonna say you don't need him contributing a ton offensively. So if he's putting his effort in locking Boo Buie down, I think things tend to bode well for this team.
Probably with the scout, Hurley's going to look at these guys and compare them to Jordan for all we know. Anything to just kind of lock them in.
What I was going to say too is, and this is a shameless plug. So if you're a fan of Uconn lore, we're having the cut the head off the snake himself, Ricky Moore, on next week. So just to kind of give you some kind of preview, I think that this is a Ricky Moore type game where you basically cut the head off Boo Buie, and look, the body of that team will die. The only other player I see that can kind of get his own shot is that kid Langborg, just because. But again, our defensive ability, I think, will shine against this team. And another player to watch, I feel like, because their bigs aren't really athletic, is Samson Johnson. I think he could play a huge role in this game to really dominate inside with pick and roll and lobs. And I don't. What do you guys think about that?
I've loved his minutes recently. And it's how he defends the screens still a little bit differently than Klingon. I think that's been very well known. Really sets a hard hedge off that screen. Offensively, defensively, rim protector. Maybe could get on the glass a little bit more. But if you're going side by side offensive rebounding, us to Northwestern, we definitely have the edge there. We average 10 offensive rebounds a game to their 7. Little things like that go such a long way, especially with second chance points.
Yeah, no,
for sure.
The way Northwestern's bigs have been injured in what they have now, I think whoever's in there at the center position should dominate their matchups, whether it's Samson, whether it's Donovan. And I think that's a big point in UConn's favor today.
Absolutely. What I was going to ask you guys too is, we'll get back into this too. And like I said, this is like a potpourri day. We just do whatever. How are you guys feeling about the tournament as a whole? Like, we haven't had a huge amount of upsets. I mean, there's been some, like obviously to get a couple 12s, but like the normal upsets are happening. 2 12s won, 2 13s won, correct? Am I? Yep. Yes or no? Maybe one.
Yeah.
We had 2 11s, which isn't a huge upset, even though Duquesne I thought was a pretty big one. NC State coming in rolling in a five games in a row type deal. Back to our Uconn team from the Kemba days. That was a pretty good game against Oakland. What are your overall thoughts, Kyle? I'll go to you first.
I mean, the game last night, what was it, Oregon and Creighton, the double overtime? Yeah. It was a fun game to watch. I mean, Creighton obviously pulled away at the end, but like the going into overtime and then that first overtime, it was exciting as heck. I think it was the best game of the tournament so far.
And that was a game that was in the 50s too, so tells you like for a game that's in the 50s to be exciting, which it was, because there was just a lot of tension in that game in terms of who's going to pull it out, and seeing what Dante and Cousinard could do against Creighton, what was impressive, and seeing them just basically carry that team. But I think it's been a fun tournament overall. I mean, we got to see some of these SEC teams lose. Some of the higher ranked ones, which has been interesting. Like you've seen Kentucky, you've seen Auburn. And I think you've got some good matchups. I think there's a lot of good action on today.
What about you, my
I
man? Little Red.
expected. I just don't. It's hard to compare it to last year. I expected a lot this year. I really did. Like I was big on McNeese State. I took him in a survivor pool. I was over 3. I had 3 picks in the survivor pool. I went over 3 in day one. It was it. What are you gonna do? I expected a lot out of South Carolina. I really like JMU. I mean, they were 29-3 coming in, absolutely rolling. Happy for them. Happy for Oakland. It was nice to see that, but I just expect a little more. I mean, last year we had the 16 over the 1. We had I believe, a 15 over a 2.
Yep.
It's tough. You just always expect more. The buzzer beater, what was it, TCU last year? The guy got pressed. He threw the ball like over his head at half court. Like, what are you doing? And blew the game for his team. Things like that. I look for. I haven't really gotten it.
That was Virginia.
Virginia
against Furman.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even bother getting into the Virginia talk. We all know how we feel about that. But I just always expect some really crazy March Madness moments. The Oakland game kind of gave that to me last night. That was a good one, and
that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So hey, Little Red, who the hell is this dude in the pool that you have that is 99.9 percentile, 440 points? He's only gotten like 2 wrong. Nick Frolino.
Oh, Frolino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
So that's Jay Frawl. He's Jay Frawl on Twitter.
Okay.
I don't know him personally.
Bro, whoever that guy is,
we've had
come on the show and help me with my picks.
He's a wagon right now.
Dude,
shout
absolutely.
out let me pull up his name so I can give him like an absolute shout out. Jay Frawl, whatever. I'm not going to look it up.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. I mean, bro, yeah. I would just in the only preparation I did for this show is I wanted to see how bad I was doing in your pool, how bad I was doing in our guy Aaron Torres' pool, who was on the show a couple weeks ago. It's about the same. Middle of the road. I'm not in first. I'm definitely not in last. And then I'm in a smaller pool with my buddy who's here in North Carolina with me. And he said before I fell asleep last night, I was watching the Creighton game. I just couldn't stay up. And he said, "Oh, I have the Creighton in the Oregon over." And I said, "Good luck." And when I woke up, that hit because it went to double overtime.
He's got a max of 1880 points left. I mean, that's like unheard of. The guy in second place has like 1810.
Yeah.
1770. I mean, to have 1880 max points remaining that's unheard of.
I'm having the hardest time this year with pools because my secret weapon every time I win a pool is no one thinks UConn's going to win it all. And that because I'm down here in North Carolina, so you always have Carolina, you have Duke.
Yeah.
You have people picking Gonzaga, all this stuff, and I'm always just like raking it in. But this year,
what's interesting about it is everybody's going to pick UConn, and the first 2 rounds in the bracket pool really don't matter for most years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for years like this, you're looking at almost every matchup in the first 2-3 rounds as very critical. Yeah, you want to have your Final Four teams still in play. I know a bunch of people got busted with Kentucky. Garbage pick, in my opinion. Got to play defense, but I digress. But those first 2 rounds are really critical. If you could he got Kentucky losing in his bracket. I mean, that's insane.
Absolutely. Jared, talk to me about this is kind of random, but I think we can all speak on it. You have a spot that you have with Alex Caravan.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that any of the shorts that I do where I'm doing, talking about how great Alex Caravan is, it always comes up as Caravan, number 1, and in the transcript. I don't know how I can change that. I don't think I can. Number 2, what have you learned like just from like having those interviews from him? Like he just seems like a really great kid.
Yeah.
Obviously super indispensable to this team. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot of talk about how like Cam Spencer is Dan Hurley out there on the court. I think Alex is a calmer version of Dan Hurley out on the court. Like you talk about high basketball IQ guy who's just like clued in on every aspect of the game. Like he's zeroed in on it all. And I think that you could see that on any given night. Like he's got the confidence as a shooter that, hey, when the shot's not falling, he's still taking it. He knows he's going to start hitting shots. Just a really smart kid, smart player out there. And I think he's probably one of the more unheralded guys in college basketball. He kind of flies under the radar. And I think a lot of the guys on this team do, given that the scoring numbers are kind of even across the board with everyone in double figures, basically. It's hard for someone to really stand out as the best player, or, you look at something like that. But Alex is a guy who I think really brings a lot to this team. I know Dan Hurley's called him the brain center of the team, which I really think he is, in terms of what he's able to do offensively, defensively, and just from a court basketball IQ expectation there.
Do you guys notice that? And I understand how intricate the offense is, and I understood it before I interviewed Michael Cohen and read his article. But now even more so when I watch them play, when I watch them make the decisions that they make, it's even more apparent to me what they're searching for, which is those high leverage 3-point shots, which is like when they repost Donovan Clingan, he's trying to get better position, or Sampson, on these kind of releases. All of the decisions that they make, I see it more now. Even like with Cam, like when the shot clock breaks down, or Tristan, when they're making moves to the basket and they get kind of denied getting all the way to the rim, that's the only time they're shooting kind of those quote unquote mid-range twos or kind of little floaters, because they have to, because of the shot clock. But other than that, there was a situation last game where Donovan had an easy post up. He likely could have just turned, shot a little jump hook like a Zach Edey or most post players, and he pivoted and kicked it out to the corner for Cam for a wide open 3, and he hit it. That's the difference that UConn has, and I think that article really crystallized it for me, and then obviously the interview too.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I mean the stuff they run's really intricate. You could just tell it, and I think there was an article before the one that Michael did with I think it was ESPN. I forget who wrote it, about interviewing some opposing coaches, some NBA scouts. And I mean, one basically compared what UConn runs to what the Warriors in their heyday run. That's impressive. I mean, you're talking about college basketball. It's such a high level. And I think some of the opposing coaches interviewed in that piece, said it themselves that UConn's one of the toughest teams to prepare for. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. I remember they did the anonymous coaching things before Dan Hurley started here in the last of the Ollie years, and it was the complete opposite, where all these opposing coaches said UConn was the easiest team to scout. So it's kind of crazy how things have flipped in such a short amount of time, where they're now running such intricate offense, and these guys are just all such high-level players. I can't imagine just having to remember the playbook and all that they're going through, and then just having to make these decisions in real time on the biggest of stages in the sport. It's just really impressive what they've been able to do.
I think it's also speaks to obviously Hurley goes and gets his guys, and I think I mentioned it on the previous podcast I was on, where Caravan reclassified and he sat out that first year, just sitting on the end of the bench watching, practicing with the team, and then you just kind of see how he builds and how the UConn culture kind of builds with him and with Hurley as time has progressed here, and little things like Caravan just is so calm. Just looks so calm out there. Doesn't get overhyped. Does not bounce around, going crazy. And he just finds little creases to maybe just sneak in an offensive glass and a quick putback or a quick back door. He's always finding that, and it's always to start the game. How he just kind of attacks the glass, and how we attack the glass, honestly, in general, we get a lot of long rebounds. Newton kind of reminds me a little bit of a Jay Kidd, how he gets on the glass. He's our leading rebounder. But Caravan, to start the game last game, loose ball, put back, offensive rebound, put back, backdoor, easy layup, backdoor layup. Oh, they try to double him, and they flips it to Clingan for an oop or something like that. That's just always how we start the game, and I feel like we always start the game through Caravan. And something that I kind of noticed as far as overall team engagement, the end of the bench, everybody from Hurley to Sampson to Diarra, everybody's engaged into the game. And Caravan looked to the bench a few times. Maybe they're doing some sort of signals, or I don't know what goes into that. It's high-level basketball stuff. Sampson and Signore were yelling something at Caravan, and Caravan was asking the bench for a question, and they were giving him a hand gesture or a hand, some sort of number on their hand. And Caravan's giving the nod as he's getting back on defense. The entire team is engaged, signal calling, defensive movements, matchups, whatever they're looking at. Everybody, top to bottom, is engaged. and Hurley mentions it all the time. That's championship caliber stuff. Everything we do is just it's so intricate. I just absolutely love what's been established over the past few years, and obviously we look at the Ollie years. Like those are some serious dark times.
Mm-hmm.
We could easily go back to that.
Doesn't take much.
Could happen in 5 or 6 years. Really need to enjoy where this team is at. I mean, to even be considered for going back to back, we're just very, very fortunate that this has been such a great turnaround.
Super fortunate, and also, as people have said, don't take it for granted. So it's a great point, my man. Kyle, what's the pulse of campus?
I know as first from a student perspective, kids love, we all pack TEDs on game days, and then everyone watches theirs like shoulder to shoulder. Everyone's super excited. It's electric in there, to be honest. We do. I do miss going into Gamble on the game days, though, waiting outside with everything. I'm going to have to wait till next season to do that again. But yeah, campus is excited for it. I know everyone's buzzing about it. It's all everyone's talking about. Like, even if you go in class on Friday, I was like, walking out of class, you can just see everyone's laptop, and it's like everyone is focused on like Uconn basketball or like March Madness. It's kind of funny to see, but
no, I mean that makes total sense, man. I can't imagine what that's like. So that's also something. Don't take that for granted either. Us older folk in the stream right now will tell you right now. Don't take this time. Don't take that time for granted, man. Enjoy the hell out of it.
All the time, it's like you choose the best time to come to Uconn as a student. So I'm just here for the ride, and I'm enjoying this the best I can. So
I love it. This is from the chat. Brian Robertson said, "No BYU Auburn made the tough quadrant a lot more doable, especially seeing Washington State hang with Iowa State." I mean, listen, we're not looking ahead. We still got to beat Northwestern, but this is just for fun. So Iowa State, I honestly think Iowa State and Illinois is going to be an absolute dogfight. Listen, I am on the Illinois train. If I had to pick who's winning that game, Illinois, even though their defense is suspect, guys, they could drop 110 points on anyone. They are legit.
The Washington State, Iowa State, what was that over? It was something like
130.
We're just seeing those tough games for the lower part of the bracket, the 2 seed. Seeing them and just finding chinks in their armor. I think that's like super important. Seeing what we're dealing with. Yeah, Iowa State was rolling coming in the tournament, but got exposed a little bit. And yeah, Illinois might not be able to play defense, and that'll show itself.
Sure,
that'll show itself. But they're absolutely rolling at the right time, and they did the same thing last year. I want Illinois. I could care less about Iowa State. I want Illinois.
See, I take Iowa State, I think.
Tell me why, Jared.
Give me the team that struggles to score from time to time. Yeah, Iowa State plays great defense. I think
I just want a better matchup. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, no, I think, in terms of what Iowa State does from a focus on the defensive perspective, I think we've got too many weapons that it's hard for a team, even when it's defensively focused as Iowa State, to be able to shut down everything. Whereas I take my chances with that over having to play a shootout game if we had to. I mean, I know this team is constructed to be able to, whether it's win a shootout like they had to do against St. John's in the Big East semis there, or win more of a defensive battle like it was against Marquette early on and some of the other teams that they've had to play throughout the year. But yeah, I know everyone was really anxious about this bracket when it came out. I was never one to really be kind of wetting the bed with who was in front of UConn's path there. You got to just play the games. No Auburn makes it a lot more doable. BYU never scared me by any chance.
Sure.
But,
I will tell you selfishly, I was listen, Yale's an awesome story. I hope they win. But I was selfish because the biggest show on the Locked On Podcast Network is Locked On Auburn. So if Auburn had won, we plan to do a crossover show. So that would have been a really cool thing for fan bases to kind of intermingle, so to speak. So selfishly, I was a little frustrated that Auburn didn't lose, that Auburn lost. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Auburn would have given us much trouble either, to be completely fair. I think their their metrics say that they would have, but seeing them crumble under pressure against Yale, if they pulled that game out, I wasn't worried. I really wasn't.
I just always, like, when I hear Auburn, I always think of that War Eagle 30 for 30.
Yeah.
That opening scene where that guy from Alabama called and he poisoned the trees outside of campus, and they're like,
That's right.
"Sir, do you know that's illegal?" He called into a radio show, like, "Sir, that's illegal." And he's like, "I don't care. Roll damn tide."
Paul,
Like,
that was on the Feinbaum show.
I love that, man. Like, it's so funny. Like, I'm surprised that they're so locked in with basketball, considering what they have for football.
Oh yeah, I think. I mean, listen, Zach Blackerby, or the guy who runs that show, and he runs the college channel here at the network.
Credit to him.
He's got that show rolling on football and basketball. So, but yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is that was the only thing I was going to say. And how crazy would it be? I feel like we were confident that we're going to be in Boston. What would that atmosphere look like if it's UConn versus Yale in Boston?
I want it.
So do I.
Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. Connecticut is the basketball capital of the world, and we own the pizza game too.
Absolutely. I mean, dude, if it's UConn versus Yale, the title of that show, and this is let me see if I get his Twitter handle right.
Are they going to pay for their band to get to Boston?
Oh, that was a great story. My brother-in-law is a musician. He does a lot of stuff on Broadway. And I sent him that message, and he said, "Band nerds unite, no matter no matter what." So
that's awesome. That the Iowa band, it was Iowa band,
Idaho, I think.
Yep.
Well, whatever it was, that was awesome. But I mean, there's not enough. Like, come on, Yale doesn't have enough money to send the band out.
Yeah, that was pretty poor.
Unbelievable.
Awful. It looks awful on Yale,
Yeah.
but I also feel like they don't. I mean, it's Yale. They
Yale.
March to the beat of their own drum, and that's not a pun, but it's
He's Catholic. Truth. He's Catholic grad on Yale. Played with Hurley.
He did. He played with Andrew Hurley.
Yeah.
That's Knowling.
Not Knowling. Yeah.
Knowling. Yep.
No. He hit the buzzer beater to get them to the tournament, right?
Maybe get us a little early glimpse of future Husky Danny Wolf.
Everybody says it.
What are the chances of that happening? Are they, Jared? You're pretty plugged in. What do you think?
No, I have no inside information. He's just a guy that he's the guy. If you're looking for someone to come in terms of eligibility and how things work in the Ivy, Danny Wolf's the guy you got circled. I mean, fun player to watch. So enjoy him tonight against San Diego State, because if we get Yale. He'd be a handful. Not that I'm super concerned, but you want him on your side and be able to cheer for.
I mean, how perfect would it be though for him to be on UConn, considering his last name? Like the NIL stuff would just come rolling in. I mean, that's just a really cool. I know he's not worried about that, but I'm sure he's gonna have a nice career with whatever he does, because with his Yale degree. But I just think that would be so cool.
Wolfpack and him will just.
Yes,
the Hartford Wolfpack. I mean, it's just that's an easy one. I came up with it in 2 seconds. Like, I'm sure somebody else has already mentioned it. What am I kidding? But yeah, dude, NIL opportunities through the roof. Absolutely.
So I know Jared has to jump here in a second. Yeah. I'm gonna ask him first before you go. Give me your, and I'm just gonna use the team that I hate the most. Okay. Yeah. Give me your Mount Rushmore of hated players from Duke.
Oh, okay. You got to start with late. You got to start with Leitner.
Okay.
Grayson Allen. No need for tripping on the court there. We'll go with the court storm crybaby and Filipowski.
Flopkowski. Yep.
Well, I got to give you one more.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Trying to think of who else I want to throw on that list there. Let's go JJ Redick.
That's a good one. Yeah. He's a good NBA analyst, but that's a great one.
Yeah, and you could tell anytime UConn gets brought up, he's still sour about it. So we'll throw him on the list and have some fun with it.
Jared, you going to get Chick-fil-A today, or what's the deal?
I got to reheat it because it's Sunday, so I had to get it.
Oh, that's right. So. Good call, bro.
Yeah, so we'll see it. We'll see how it goes. Stay tuned. If it's any good, reheated in the air fryer.
Oh, air fryer? Absolutely, dude. That's gonna slap. You know it.
Oh well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah. See you guys.
Go Huskies. We're just gonna keep that little screen red there. If anyone wants to join us in our four panel, you're more than welcome. to inbox right now or hit up a comment. I'll send you the link. Wait, Kyle, didn't your roommate or your buddy Kyle want to jump on?
Yeah. Do you want me to text him, see if he wants to hop on?
Yeah, we have an open spot. Pick him up.
That's a fun question, though. The most hated Duke Mount Rushmore.
Go ahead. I honestly, and in full disclosure, it's something I saw on another podcast randomly. So this is not my doing.
I love that. Continuing to find ways to just cook up things. I love that.
Who's okay? Go. Who's your Mount Rushmore?
I'm thinking it's gotta be Christian Laettner starts it.
Yep.
And it's almost like a little personal, Trajan Langdon drove me crazy. That's when I was first really understanding basketball, falling in love with basketball. And he was just so cold-blooded, man. He was a great shooter, the Alaskan Assassin. Hate him just because he was good, right? Screw it.
Yep.
I like JJ Redick. It's kind of hard to hate JJ Redick because he's I don't want to say that. He's such a jerk. I think it's I know I can't curse. He's such a jerk that I don't know. I kind of liked it. A little egotistical maniac. That's my kind of guy.
Love it. I love it.
Jay Billis played for Duke, right?
Jay Billis, yep.
Yeah, he's been on the poopy list. I'm going out of my way to not curse.
I love it.
What's that? 3?
Yep.
Trying to think. Let's put Shire on there.
Oh God, yeah.
Screw it. Shire gets on there. I just don't like any the whole 5-star bringing in everybody. But he was while he was at Duke, he was a pain, major pain.
Absolutely. Kyle, I know you're younger than us.
Like Sheldon Williams in there because Sheldon Williams was so ugly. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress.
No. Kyle, I know you're younger. So do you have different folks than us? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a few the same. Grayson Allen, Filipowski's up there. JJ Redick, that's my 3. And then Little Red just mentioned it. John Shire. I don't like him as a coach now anyway, so I'm just gonna put him on that list.
Okay, are you guys ready for mine? This is very well thought out because I heard this last night. So in my brain, I was like,
yeah.
Everyone, listen. Christian Laettner is on there. He is the reason why I started hating Duke. With that 89-90 team, him beating us at the buzzer in the Elite Eight. So that crushed me as a 9-year-old. So I was, pissed off then. But to go down this road, this is a random one, and he was a coach for them. I don't even know if he played. Let me look up if he played before
give me the name.
The name is Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, he was a coach for them.
He was a coach. I'm not sure if he played for them. I don't care. Quinn Snyder, for number one, looks like he's always on a 24/7 Coke binge. He looks disheveled. He looks like he was an extra in Goodfellas.
His nickname was Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, listen, man. I'm joking around there. Yeah. These are not true allegations for anyone listening. But Quinn Snyder used to just frustrate the hell out of me just looking at him. And typical whiny coach, but also another one down that road, Steve Wojciechowski. Wojo used to piss me the hell off with his little court slap, even though he was a hustle player. We should, if he was on our team, we probably would have loved him. But no,
one of those guys.
Absolutely, just couldn't stand him.
I was a court slap guy, dude. So
of course, everybody did it. Like it's like a way to say, like, come on, come get it.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, and this is probably a controversial one, but because he is a nice dude, but Grant Hill, I just never been a fan. Never been a fan of Grant Hill. I don't mind him as a broadcaster. I think he's actually pretty fair. But I actually did it to obviously be a little more. I knew everyone was going to pick different people, but I think that would be my Mount Rushmore of hated Duke players.
Grant Hill might be one of the top 5, what if players in the NBA.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think he was amazing. Like, all right,
really was really good for Detroit.
It was crazy. Who did he go to? Did he go to? Was it Orlando? Then everything
went to Orlando after that. He played with Stevie Francis in Orlando.
Yep. I'm gonna send Kyle Garib the link for him to jump on if he'd like to. Here, just did.
I think he said he's busy, but send him the link anyway.
Well, he messaged me at like 10:30.
That's a college student response. No offense, man.
I'm a little busy right now. I'm a little
busy. Send it anyway. I'm busy. Just whatever. I'm busy. It's Sunday
I wanted
morning,
to do it. I wanted to do
11
a live remote, like while he's like walking around, wherever he's
I'm calling
doing.
him out. 11 a.m. on Sunday. What are you getting out of church?
How dare you?
What are you doing, man?
So what are your predictions for the rest of the tournament, guys? While we're waiting on if Kyle's going to join us, what do you got? Like, I know, what's that?
I'll pass it to the college kid, man.
All right, Kyle, go. What do you got? Who's your Final Four?
My Final Four, I think it's going to be UConn, UNC, and then I believe I had Marquette and Tennessee.
Okay.
Is that 5 teams in your Final Four? Impressive.
No,
was it UConn?
UConn, UNC.
I'm messing with you, man.
Oh shit! You had me. Oh,
None of this is sponsored today, so don't worry about it. Don't go crazy. What about you? What about you, Little Red? Who you got?
It's tough, man. I'm honestly just pulling up the bracket and looking at the matchups. I really do like UConn, and to go back with what Jared said, I just want to play Illinois because I think it's going to be the tougher matchup. I want to see good basketball. Yep. I want to see UConn Purdue. I think that might be the most in the final. That might be the most watched college basketball game, if not sporting game of all time. I really, really want to see that. And if there's any way we can possibly fix that NCAA, that'd be fantastic. I just want to see really good basketball. Outside of that, Houston's been rolling and they seem really, really dialed in. I mean, they looked really good. They played. Did they play yesterday? No, the day before. They looked really, really good.
They go on crazy runs because they can stop you and they can shoot the three.
And I hate to use the word thick, but they got some thick boys down there that can get up and down the floor. Some really, big, quick guys. And we don't really play at a very fast pace. You really got to defend us for 30 seconds in the half court. I mean, good luck. But if they're the team to go against us, I mean, that's a scary, scary matchup. Yeah.
I have UConn. Spoiler alert. And then I have Baylor winning today and beating Carolina to get to the Final Four. Baylor is the team in the Big 12 that I was outside of Houston, outside of Iowa State, that I was most impressed with watching basketball this year. They have an NBA player at shooting guard in Jacoby Walter. I think I'm saying his name right, but it doesn't matter. They have about 4 or 5 different guys who can shoot the three, and they have some really quick inside guys akin to Houston, and they have a coach that's won a national championship. Just the fact that Scott Drew is at the helm there makes me feel more comfortable in an Elite Eight game against Carolina, because. And I hate to say this to my Carolina friends down here, and I really don't have any hatred for UNC unless they're talking smack to UConn fans. I really don't trust them in a big game because they don't have a third scorer. They have RJ Davis and they have Armando Bacot, and then it's kind of like who can step up. It's kind of a mixed bag. They don't have, to use a UConn term, they don't have like a Niels Giffey to hit a big time three. They have a couple guys like I think his name is Seth Trimble. Maybe his first name is wrong there, but Trimble isn't really a shooter. They just don't do it for me in terms of like a number 1 seed that you can bank on getting to the Final Four. Now, if they get there, I think UConn wins by double digits against them in the semifinal.
You could say UConn really doesn't take a whole lot of possessions off,
right?
Like whether defense or offense. But a few possessions I watched in the Carolina game yesterday, where it's kind of a little bit of iso ball, and the guy, whoever it is, doesn't matter. Insert name here, takes a shot, but there's nobody crashing on the offensive glass. It was one guy takes a shot. By the time the ball leaves his hand, we got 4 guys going back on D. That stands out to me, and they got a really tough matchup against A&M. I mean,
A&M's tough.
A&M, granted, I had some bias against them because I bet on them early in the season, and it was a difficult watch early in the season. But they are clicking. their guards are scary. That's going to be a great matchup against Houston. And then, they play the winner of JMU Duke. I hate Duke. I hate, guys that get manicures that play basketball. I think that's weird. But either way, that's a tough matchup in the Sweet 16. Very tough matchup. Then obviously, like the bottom half of the bracket, kind of a toss-up. Gonzaga's playing good basketball right now, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not an easy path for Houston, but it's going to be some great matchups in that quadrant of the bracket.
Yeah, my overall is I have UConn, Baylor, I have Houston, and I have Creighton. Because I think Creighton beats Tennessee. I think Creighton has shown that they can definitely get in the weeds with a tough matchup like they did against Tennessee. They can play a rock fight like they showed it against Oregon and they pulled away. And I don't think they're going to play or shoot as poorly as they did against Oregon as they will against Tennessee. I hope my wife isn't outside of my office right now, ready to break down the door because she's a UT fan. But I'll root for Tennessee in that game. I'm sorry, Big East Nation, because I want my wife to be happy and she's pregnant, and so I don't want to get yelled at. So that's a big part of it. So,
do you know if it's a boy or girl?
It's a girl. Our first girl, and then
we're looking at Henrietta.
Yes, that's actually second on the list.
All right, yeah, boy or girl? We got options with Henry, Henrietta. What do you want to do?
I don't know, man.
You might be thinking of me. Yeah, I don't want you thinking of me every time you call your girl Henrietta. So maybe we go. Maybe we go another direction.
I'll be honest with you, man. We already have the name picked out. So
congrats.
We're good. We're good there. And but yeah, I see Creighton winning that game. But if Tennessee won, it wouldn't surprise me. And then I actually had Purdue losing to TCU, which lost in the first round because TCU, I feel like has that kind of guard play to do that. Utah State, it's going to be tough for them to guard Zach Edey. I see Purdue winning that game and beating Gonzaga. And I think Purdue's going to be in the Final Four. So I'm going to go, it's UConn, Baylor, Purdue, and I have Houston.
I like that. Can't go wrong.
Yep. Nope. I think it's good basketball from here on out. I mean, even if you go past the late game tonight is so fascinating to me, San Diego State against Yale, because Yale's on that run. I know we touched on them a little bit earlier, but San Diego State just plays that ugly style basketball. They remind me of like the old school, like of a college level of old school Pistons, where they just kind of like grind you out. They have physical guys. They don't shoot it particularly great, but they can go on streaky runs. But defense travels, man. Like, and that's the thing, is against a mid-major like Yale, I just feel like they put Yale in kind of a stranglehold and don't give up until they win. That's my prediction there.
Some interesting lines today. Houston, 10-point, given 10 to A&M. I mean, it's just San Diego State, -5.5. I'm not much of a gambler as far as taking the points, but
yep,
Duke 7.5 over James Madison.
I think you take James Madison there. If we're giving people betting advice,
yeah, I'm terrible.
Betting advice sure to go wrong.
Absolutely fade me.
Yeah, I absolutely take the points with James Madison. Honestly, if you won some money already and you aren't in the hole, or if you're not chasing, which you should never, but if you are, James Madison plus 240, I think, something like that. Run it. They're like, what's James Madison? 32-3, like the same as UConn.
Something like that.
They're 32-3, guys. They haven't lost since December. Like they're, I mean, guys, I know it's the A-Sun, but as someone that covered mid-major basketball for 10 years, this team is different, man. They're one, and then once you get that one win in the tournament that was an upset, I mean, I think you got to be licking your chops that you got Duke, because I know they look decent against Vermont, but if Vermont played even a little bit better in that game, I think they make it a lot tougher and potentially win that game.
It's not a classic Vermont team. I mean, they really didn't shoot TJ Sorenstein, always just comes out, that game that he had against Syracuse and that run that those Catamount teams had. They just didn't shoot the ball well. If you're going to be that mid-major, the James Madisons, of the world, or the Grand Canyons of the world. You got to be able to stroke it from three. And I mean, just looking at the matchups that we have today, though, just some phenomenal basketball on deck. Clemson Baylor is going to be a good game.
I agree.
A&M Houston. I don't like UConn with the 14 points. I'm not sure what it's going to close at. If it did open it, I think it opened as 14.
I think it's 13.5 right now. Kyle, if money was no object, would you take UConn and the points?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, I would. I also love that James Madison pick you were talking about. From 240. Yeah, hammer that one home.
Let me tell you this right now. So James Madison, I was wrong on what last time they lost, but let's be honest, it's pretty nice, still pretty impressive. They lost at Appalachian State, which is here in Carolina in the mountains. Saturday, just January 27th is the last game they lost. They haven't lost in February, and they certainly haven't lost in March yet. So this team is coming in hot, and they're definitely feeling good about themselves, and they are the type of team that can make plays. They can give this Duke team fits. If Kyle Filipowski plays well, Duke probably wins. But if he has an even subpar game, they're gonna have to rely on their guards, who I don't think are big time. I think honestly, if Duke had a classic Duke team, the two guards that are on that team, McCain and Proctor, would be great for them because they're more of that, you know, I don't think they're guys that can kind of get you where you need to go, but they would be nice pieces on a championship level team versus the guys that are leading the charge. That's my opinion.
And Jamie, you can score too.
Absolutely, man. So I think we're probably gonna. I mean, if you guys are cool with it, I think we're gonna call it a day.
Good to rock. Yep, perfect time.
Yep. So before we go, I want score predictions of the game tonight, and I'm gonna have Kyle. You go first. What's the UConn score tonight?
I'm gonna go 87 UConn, and I'm gonna go like 64 Northwestern.
Okay. Talk dirty to me, Kyle.
I think
you got, Henry?
Second half, we're going to blow them out for sure.
Okay. I like that.
First half, it's going to be a little closer of a game. We're going to have to grind it out. We're going to get another early halftime. Going to get another one of those videos, and then
another gem.
Yep.
What you got, Henry?
Let's go. We'll go like 83 UConn, 75 Northwestern.
Okay.
83-75.
I like it, a little closer, but I can see either of those scenarios happening, obviously. And I'm gonna be right in the middle of you guys. I have them winning 82-66, and I think it's gonna be. I think they push it past the. I think they push it past the points line, whether it's 14 or 13.5. Late, I think they make a nice run late in the game. I think it'll resemble, not in the scoring essence, the St. John's game. I think St. John's was like 2 or 3 stops away from having a kill shot where they go on a 10-0 run and then they win that game by about 14, 15 points. So that's why I could see it going either way. I could see it going crazy big to about 25 to kind of that 14, 15, 16 range to even 6 or 7 where we win because we just kind of kept them at arm's reach. I equate this game to if you're a better boxer than someone and you have the reach, you just pepper them with jabs. And if you can't get a kill shot, you just win off points. Like that's the way I feel like this UConn game goes, where we're just dominating the fight the entire way and we just outlast them at the end.
I was really thinking a backdoor cover by Northwestern is the recipe for the day, but either of those could play out. I'd much rather see yours.
Yeah, I'd much rather see Kyle's 87-64.
No,
dude, have it be over at half. I'm cool with that. All right, well, listen, guys, thanks for jumping on and doing this little live show on a Sunday. Stay with me as I hit this outro button, and we will talk soon, I'm sure. All right, guys, go Huskies.
Go Huskies.
Appreciate it.